Welcome to the Larry Kreider's Leadership Podcast. Larry is the author of over 40 books, the founder of Dove International, a worldwide family of churches and ministries in 6 continents, and has over 50 years of leadership experience. He and his guests will share inspirational leadership insights from their journey with God. These insights, gleaned from serving leaders in many nations, will transform your life and leadership. For more information on Larry's books and resources, visit LarryKreider.com.
Welcome to the Larry Kreider Leadership Podcast. Larry Kreider here. So glad you joined us from many, many nations around the world as we talk about leadership. With me today by Zoom from the nation of Switzerland is Daniel and Luzanne Esmeraldo. Welcome, guys, to the podcast.
Hi, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. It's so great to be with you.
We're so glad you're here. Well, we want to hear all about the things that you've learned over the years. And you work with Youth with a Mission for years. I know you have roots, in different countries and right now in Switzerland. Let's just talk about some areas of leadership you've been in over the years. Daniel, we'll start with you, then right over to Luzanne, and here we go.
Yeah, I think there was a progressive journey, I would say. I'm from Brazil. Originally, I was born and raised in Brazil. I grew up in the northeast of Brazil, in Fortaleza, and then my family moved to the inner state, where Dove planted a church in Juazeiro do Norte. It was my first church.
Yeah. So you grew up Brazilian, and give me some areas of leadership you've been involved in, and then I want to hear all the same from Luzanne.
Yeah, so getting involved with the church, I think one of the first areas was serving in the church, so leading a small group. There was a season that I participated in the children's ministry as well.
Right.
And right about that time, I was also growing in a little bit more leadership in my job. I was leading a department in work for a newspaper.
All right. So you started your leadership journey in Brazil. Luzanne, talk about where you grew up, talk about leadership when you were younger. Go for it.
Well, I'm from South Africa, Stellenbosch in Cape Town.
I love that area. Love it.
Yes. And it was a great journey of growing up there. We were always encouraged through missionaries coming through and staying with us. And I basically, from a young age, enjoyed creating and leading others in following and making up things and creating concerts or things like that. But it isn't until I came to YWAM, and, YWAM is all about championing youth. I was 18 and asked if I would help lead certain projects that would go through different YWAM bases. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I don't really know if I have what it takes. But that set us off on a journey as young people, having to trembling and trusting in God and getting a heart for the nations, getting a heart for the people in the nations. And through that, learn how to put programs together, work with people.
Tell us more about how you met. Like, you're from Brazil, Daniel, and you're from South Africa. So where did you meet? How did that happen?
I think the first time we met was actually in that growth journey within YWAM. I joined YWAM in 2001.
Okay.
With actually a Dove couple that highly encouraged me to go and pursue my DTS, and my life into missions in YWAM was also highly influenced by.
So where'd you go to YWAM?
I did it in Brazil. I went to the south of Brazil, southeast to be more exact, in São Paulo. And then after that, I did a leadership training school in Fortaleza, which happened to be the city that I lived in. And little did I know that there was the time that I was meeting a lot of people that I would spend pretty much the rest of my life with. And one of them was my beautiful wife.
That's awesome. So you met in Brazil, Luzanne?
No, I actually came to Switzerland. It's another long story, but I ended up in Switzerland and to do my DTS. I did my outreach of DTS in Brazil, but that was in 99. But then I went to join this leadership program, and that's how we met.
So I didn't know that school that I went to do in Fortaleza was ran by an international team, and Luzanne was a part of the team, and many of them were actually working here in Lausanne, in Switzerland. So I joined the team after the school for about 2 years, working in different places in the world, in South Africa, some places in South America as well. And after 2 years, that's how I was invited to come and join the team here in Lausanne as well.
Okay, so
that's when our relationship then kind of gained.
Okay, well, talk to me then about your leadership journey, the things that you've done in leadership into Youth with a Mission. How many years have you been in YWAM?
22 years for me.
Wow, Luzanne?
24.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what that looked like. So you've been working out of Switzerland for all these years. It's amazing. Talk to us about what that looked like over the years and what it looks like now.
Yeah, so like Luzanne said, one of the values in YWAM is championing young people. So as a leader, you always like looking for those that you spot giftings and give opportunity for them to grow and take more responsibility and grow in their leadership. And that's something that we both really saw happening to us. Our leader at the time, that is still our leader today, really championed us in seeing the gift of God in us in the areas of worship, of organizing events and teaching, in coordinating teams. So through the years, we have been given multiple opportunities to exercise those giftings. So we got to lead schools, we got to lead different projects, different events. And as we are growing and committing more to the ministry here long term, we also start to be more involved into the leadership of the running of our YWAM ministry days.
Sure. Let's go back to championing younger leaders, young people. That's fantastic. Luzanne, talk about that. How do you do that? You see a gifting in somebody's life and you just get behind them, or what's that look like? How do you do that?
I mean, it's really taking risks, right? So you do that in LIDAF, I think, is one of our core values. Then you step into that and you include God in that. And I still remember the first school I led was in South Africa. And my leader, I was 21 at the time, and I was going to South Africa, leading predominantly male African students. And I was probably the youngest in the room and the leader.
Wow.
And my leader said, "You can do this. I believe in you." And we pulled a team together to travel with me to South Africa for 3 months. And this leader was there in the beginning of the school to help us kick it off. He came to visit in the middle of the school, and he was there on graduation day. So 3 times, 3 moments present, and very supportive and very honoring. And I think that I will never forget that time of my life. And that has taught me how to be present, how to come alongside, how not just to quickly delegate, but to walk with them and to recognize key moments, to be actually present with them.
Beautiful. So talk about teamwork. I mean, you guys are building teams all the time. What more have you learned about building teams? Because obviously teams are so powerful, so important.
Yeah, I think in a YWAM context, you deal with a little bit of both scenarios that you come across, as you have a lot of short-term teams that you build when you work with a school for a couple months or with a certain event or project, but you also have those like longer term strategy teams as we continue to build the ministry here.
Yeah.
I think one of the principles I would say that I have learned, that we have learned, is that it's basically replicating what we saw doing to us. That calling off the gifts of people and finding ways to support them and find the right opportunity and place to apply that and champion them by encouragement, by correction, by guidance. I think that's having everybody in the team feeling like they can contribute and they can take ownership by something that they're really strong at is definitely one of the principles that we see that has been very important.
Yeah, and I think then, that everybody comes together in a place of prayer and committing to the vision. Because when we're united in the vision and in God and in prayer and to one another, then we are a strong team and we can walk in unity. And we've just seen the difference when you just work together or when you are worshiping, praying, and walking this vision together, being there when things don't work, but celebrating when they do work, and on your knees, trusting God for breakthroughs, like we all do, right, in different phases of ministry. And so that unity element of prayer, of worship, and having that vision together and carrying it forward.
Good. All right. Every leader's made mistakes. At least all leaders who admit it have made mistakes.
True.
And I know you guys are very open. What are some things, looking back, you think, man, I would have done that differently. I know some stuff now I didn't know then. Anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think one for me has been underestimating the importance of process, to just, especially in making decisions. I think people really get more behind it when they understand the why and how we got to that discernment. So one thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning to a large degree, is to really to give the proper process to every decision, especially depending on what is at stake. And so it's I think that was one. There's been many times
the process.
That I wish that I had given more time for the process needed in some decision making.
So often you get a word from the Lord and maybe move too quickly rather than walking through the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, discerning the timing to walk into it is one aspect, but another one is also just including the people in the process.
Very good. Luzanne, how about you?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of what you've said is what I believe. Like, I'm a person who gets quickly excited, and I'm a passionate person. And so then I get passionate when I hear a vision or an idea and I get behind it. And sometimes I don't get the word of the Lord in gathering the people or leading people, and you too quickly pass on things. And so I think it's just one of the mistakes I've made in the past is too quickly delegating without checking in with God and doing it in the right sequence.
Right. Let's talk about health. How do you stay healthy as a leader? A lot of the younger leaders will ask me, how do you stay healthy? And I'm now in my 70s, and God's been so good to us over the years. Well, you got to stay healthy, because I wasn't always healthy. There's times I, messed that up. Talk to us about that, either of you.
Well, I think when we understand where our source comes from, which is Jesus, in John 15:9, the vine, we are the branches, that daily source coming from him, his word. I think making that priority, setting those routines and rituals to have a foundation which you then flow out from is definitely a way, one of the main ways of staying healthy.
Agreed. Daniel?
Yeah, I think in addition to that, I would say to cultivate and maintain a teachable spirit, a teachable heart.
That's so good.
Always wanting to learn, listen from those who have had more experience, or those who haven't, but just to have that soft heart that is always willing to learn will definitely protect us from doing a lot of sidetracking that we shouldn't.
Yeah. So you have connected with people from so many nations, and you've been to many nations. Do you have any idea how many nations you guys have had the privilege of touching over the years? Even a guess?
40
nations. That is amazing.
Including nations coming here, for sure.
Yeah. So what has changed, about how you see leadership today compared to where you maybe saw leadership when you were really young? What looks different?
All of it. No, I think for me, the biggest one I would say is understanding that leadership is really not about you.
That's good.
It is actually very little about you. It's about God's purposes and what he wants to do through his body and in the nations, and you implicating yourself to open ways for that to happen. And there's a lot more about taking responsibility for your part to play into this. That responsibility, you have then the authority. So before, I think you see leadership as kind of the place of authority, the place of, the guides where things goes through, even in a good intention, is a lot more than that.
That's so true. Luzanne, what else would you say about that?
Yeah, it's really growing and having his heart rather than your own heart. An enlarged heart. And I was thinking about this, when I was young, I see this image of the leader's the one on the stage kind of speaking and everyone's listening. Today, I would say the leader is the one building the platform and bringing the people together and allowing what is on God's heart to be imparted in that way.
So good. So good. So good. Well, before I go on, I want to just say to everyone listening today to the podcast, if you want to know more about what God's doing through Daniel Luzanne, check out the show notes, the information there that you can connect with them and what God's doing through them throughout the world. Maybe you've been interested in Youth of the Mission or anything that they're involved in, and you can check that out. Now, I want to now ask the question I've been waiting to ask you. To me, this is the important one. The two of you are very anointed leaders. The two of you are very passionate people. How do you do this together? How does that work?
I think when I married Luzanne, it was very clear that's something we have to learn. How do we do that together? That was clear that she is an anointed leader and has a lot of capacity to do things. And from the start, I knew that it was more going to be our scenario and instead of a different one. I think probably the biggest lesson, I remember the moment that we had this big revelation where we realized the more we rely on each other's strength, more beneficial it is for us and everybody around us. The more we try to just kind of do everything ourselves, so to rely on something that we're not as strong as the other person, more is a struggle for us and it's more is a struggle for everybody around us. So I think that was one of the big principles that we learned, to just say, this is definitely more your strength, so why don't you go ahead and lead us through that and vice versa.
I love working together with Daniel. I think God really has given us complementary giftings.
Very much.
And just the way, even just annually, we do this large summer camp where nations come and reach out here in Switzerland. And even how we've learned over the years to do that together has been probably one of my highlights, just growing as a family in missions. And now our children coming alongside and joining with us as well.
What are some keys to how you learn to work cross-culturally? You're working with people from 40 plus nations. Anyone listening saying, I'm called to the nations, but I'll understand my own culture. Are there any simple things you've learned that would help others in that realm?
Yeah, I think that's, we were telling a friend the other day that unknown, uncomfortable, stretchy for everybody is our comfort zone. That's the only environment that we know how to live in. And that's where we have been for the last several years, a couple of decades, is in this multicultural community. That doesn't mean that we are experts on it. We for sure have gone through the challenges of
we all do. Sure.
Working with other cultures. But I would say a few principles that we learn is, the first one is probably celebrating cultures, learning to celebrate differences, the uniqueness of God's diversity in every culture. That's one thing that we definitely, I think, creates that love for the nations and sparks that love for each other's contribution and being a body of Christ together within our differences. So that's definitely one of them.
There are many languages spoken in Switzerland, but then on our base, like this quarter, we are running in 4 languages. And, you learn, you stretch yourself. And at least for us, we can say, we could say quite a lot in French now. But we have a Korean connection. So we have Korean programs. And then, of course, some programs we're running in the Middle East. And so some Arabic. And so we love to learn a few things in the language. We love to taste some of the food and talk about these things, and just to show the love and appreciation.
Yeah. Maybe one thing that can blend both of those things together is very often people that are more used to just one language ask us, isn't that a little bit disturbing to always have to translate everything? And it would be much easier if everybody just understands the same language, but to have that feel that we are one family from many nations, we get used to just translating everything, everything, announcements, lectures, and that creates, after a while, becomes the norm. I actually worked for 3 months with a Korean lady who spoke very little English, and all of our weekly meetings was with Google Translate.
Yeah, the only Korean I ever learned was "Come Samnidad." Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
been to Korea many times in my younger years. Yeah. But look, we're almost out of time. This has been so much fun. Anything else you guys have in your heart that you'd like our listeners to know about leadership? Anything else that you came into this podcast saying, I want to make sure I share this? Here's your chance.
Well, I think God entrusts us with people, and we're here to serve them. And I think the biggest love we have is to see people encounter God and then walking this discipleship of seeing, just transformed to be the people that God called them to be. And one of the things that I love, it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:24, it says, he who called you is faithful. He will surely do it. And so it's not really about our ability or our backgrounds or our family where we come from, but it's just being called. And then as we're called, he is faithful and he will surely do it.
Good. Daniel, any last minute words of wisdom from you?
I think for me, there is maybe one core message is twofold. One is don't let anyone else take the place that God has prepared for you. There is definitely opportunities to lead, opportunities to make a difference. And don't let fear or pride or any circumstances hold you back from what God has prepared for you. There is a special design, a special plan that he is counting on us, and it's totally worth it to serve him with that. And with that, I'll also say that that opportunity to serve might be a lot closer than what we think. Sometimes when we kind of like think of embracing leadership, you have some ideas that are out there. We need a telescope to see it, but it's very often just right in front of you. Opportunities to serve people, opportunities to lead and make a difference. Because that's some of the points.
Daniel and Luzanne, thank you for being on the podcast today. It was so good catching up with you. And thank you for all you served so faithfully over the years and continue to do that. You'll do that for many, many years to come. So everyone else, thank you for joining the Larry Kreider Leadership Podcast, where we learn these little changes we can make in our lives that'll make a massive difference if we apply them, because God is into healthy leadership and God is into placing his heart in us to lead others closer to him. So God bless you all. We'll see you back here on the Larry Kreider Leadership Podcast next week.
Thank you for listening to Larry Kreider's Leadership Podcast. If you want more information about any of Larry's books, daily devotionals, small group resources, or any other teachings, go to LarryKreider.com.